right, I am here today with Senator Jerry McNerney. He's a state senator in California, and he has some very unusual qualities. Not only is he a scientist, but he is a politician. Those two things don't come together very often, so we have a lot of questions for him. A little background on Senator McNerney. He has a PhD in mathematics. He served in Congress for 16 years. He spent more than 20 years in the clean energy industry. And he has introduced 21 bills in 2026. A lot of them are covering infrastructure, technology, some AI, veterans. There's a lot to cover, actually. It's quite interesting. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I think we should have a good conversation.
I hope so. I'm pretty excited. There's a lot to discuss. But, right. Let's start with AI because it's hot in the news. It's really significant. People are on their phones. They're on social media. I mean, I use ChatGPT all the time. AI is part of our lives. And, we need some guardrails for it, right? I know you're very positive for it. You have a lot of bills that are supporting technology. So guardrails are good. So my first question for you is, what do you see as the danger that AI presents to humanity and human safety, if any?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm excited about AI because I understand how neural networks work, and seeing these things come together over the last decade has been pretty exciting. The networks have been getting bigger, the software is more powerful, and there's more data that these companies are using to train these systems. So they've just gone through a whole generation of change in the last few years. It's very exciting, but and there's terrific opportunities here in terms of efficiency, in terms of medical breakthroughs that are going to happen in chemical. With pharmaceuticals, and then there's energy efficiency. There's just a tremendous opportunity for this. We can use it to improve people's productivity in many ways,
right?
But there's risks, I think, that are at least as big as the opportunities. And one of the risks that really bothers me the most is the chance that these automated systems are going to be displacing human beings in the workforce. And they're already making it difficult for college graduates to find work. In the past, technology has attacked workplace of blue-collar workers, and now it's attacking the more white collar workers, the programmers, the entry-level business people, insurance folks, lawyers. I mean, it's attacking all levels of society now. So we're going to see more and more people be impacted in the workforce, whether it's being displaced altogether or having a reduced impact at the workforce, at the job. Are they going to be facing a situation where they have to worry about answering to a robo-boss? These are things that I think are really scary. There's a lot of other things we can talk about as well that are risky with regard to artificial intelligence.
There were two of your bills that I thought were particularly interesting, and one was the No Robo-Boss Act. And can you explain what that does?
Well, yes, last year we introduced SB 7 to prevent employers from using automated decision-making systems from firing or demoting people or punishing people on the workplace, because these systems may show bias, they may hallucinate and make bad decisions about people. And so what we wanted was to have automated decision-making systems. You can use them, but you have to have a human being in oversight of that system. So if an automated decision-making system fires a person, then there has to be a human in the loop overseeing that to make sure that it's valid.
Yeah.
And so you can still use these, but we want to make sure that they're answering to human beings.
Is that the same logic that's applied for the power infrastructure? Because I know you have another bill that says that you want to have human oversight over the power grid.
Right. It's similar in that regard. I want human beings to be in control, basically, whether it's employment decisions, whether it's decisions with regard to massive or critical infrastructure, whether it's state-owned operations. I want to see human beings in the loop on this stuff.
Yeah, sounds smart, right?
Well, it's scary if they don't. AI decision making systems can be pretty heartless. They can make big mistakes that humans would have caught, and they can cause infrastructure risk to millions of people.
Yeah. Well, they sound like they're great bills. Okay. So one of the other issues I want to talk about is the fact that we do have all this AI and all this technology, but we don't have a lot of connection with our civic democracy, and people don't really know how to participate. So I wanted to, if you could walk us through a little bit of how like a bill, like an AI bill, comes to fruition. Are you hearing from constituents? Are people like, industry groups coming to you? Walk us through how a bill starts and then goes from there.
Well, there was the simple video about how a bill becomes law, and that's somewhat instructive, but really it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I'm sure you can imagine.
Right.
In Sacramento, we'll be approached by maybe 50 organizations that want us to consider something they'd like to see brought into law. I also bring my own experience. As I said, I have a lot of experience and understanding of how AI works.
Right.
And so I brought my own experience into the AI safety bill, SB 813. So there's constituents that will approach me and say, geez, we need to do something about the water in this particular area. So it's all of the above. And someone will come up with an idea, whether it's my office or an outside group or a constituent. We'll talk about it with experts. We'll bring my office staff into the discussion. We'll decide, is this something that I believe in? Is this something that I want to see happen? Is it something that has a real chance of passing the legislative process? How do we modify it during the process? Are we going to draw red lines where we don't want to make changes beyond this? We don't want to pass something that's going to have no effect. It's just a message bill. I don't want to do that, really. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, but usually I want to have bills that actually have an impact. What's the chance that the governor is going to sign it versus veto it? So a lot of considerations, and then as it moves through the process, there's an opportunity to improve things, and I that's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah.
You bring it to a committee, and the committee will get back to you and say, well, this is a good bill, but if you change this, then it'll be better, and I'll look at that recommendation, and if I think I agree with it, which I often do, not always, then I'll say, yeah, let's go ahead and make that change, and I think that's an opportunity to improve the bill as it moves through the process.
Right.
Because no one person or no one office has all the answers.
Right, so it becomes a community event ultimately. So maybe industry groups might come to you with some advocacy and have an ask, and then as it moves through the process, it gets more and more refined, basically.
Yeah.
Can it get lost, though? I mean, that's a question I had, about compromise, making a bill no longer meaningful. Like, it's to be effective. How do you did this with your water infrastructure bill, which I wanted to talk about, which is not AI, but the fact that you got environmentalists and the state water contractors to come together in support of water infrastructure, which is not an easy thing to do. Those two groups do not usually play nicely. So how did you manage that? Like, what was the process for that one?
Well, it was an extended process. We basically started last year. I'm opposed to the plan to put tunnels around the Delta,
right?
Because that would make the Delta into a more polluted, more salt water, less usable.
Right.
And that's my district, so I want to protect my district.
Right.
So I'm going to oppose the tunnel plan. And then we were able to form a coalition that stood strong in the legislative process. And so the tunnel plan was not adopted last year. And what happened was interesting because my intent all along was, well, we want to stop the tunnels, but we also want to propose something that's positive. We want to say, well, we don't want the tunnels, but if we do these things, we won't need the tunnels, and we'll supply. We'll produce a water supply system that's reliable for the state of California for the next generation. And so, since we weren't fighting over the tunnel any longer, we had an opportunity to bring these groups together. And there's a significant need with regard to the aqueducts in the valley, because they're subsiding. That's a gravity-fed system. If they subside too far, then water flow stops, and that serves 27 million people.
Right.
LA and San Diego, the whole Southern California basin would face an extreme water crisis. Meanwhile, in the Delta, we have levees that were built in the 1800s that are no longer that effective, where there's water seepage underneath them, so salt water is getting in to the freshwater supply. There's these big rats, the nutria, that are eating through the levees, and they're just and you can't just pile more dirt on top of them. That's not going to work any longer. So we're going to need to do real engineering to protect the levees. Now, if the levees fail, what happens? You have thousands of people that would be put at risk at this cold water coming through their neighborhoods, and billions of dollars. I heard estimate $22 billion worth of infrastructure that's at risk.
Okay.
So that's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
So between the two, Southern California was very excited about protecting the aqueducts, and the Delta and Northern California is very excited about protecting the levees. So getting them together. So one of my colleagues, Barb Archuleta, said it's like getting the Dodgers and the Giants together for the sake of baseball. And this is right. We're getting Northern California and Southern California together for the sake of water security for the state. So it's very exciting to be in this position, to be able to move something that generational forward like this.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, those players are very hard to get to the game together.
True, yeah.
And then on top of that, you have, not only do you have North and South, but you have the environmentalists that pretty much just don't want to see the Delta get worse, right? It needs to have water flowing through it in order to heal the ecosystem, right? So, diverting more water via the tunnels would be very negative, right, for the environment. But not even bringing that to the table and just working on keeping these infrastructure in place makes a lot of sense.
It
but
does.
Still.
And you're right. Actually, it brought the environmentalists and the water contractors, the laborers excited about it.
Yeah.
So there's all these players that don't always play nice together are saying, we need to do this. And so we have a real opportunity now.
Yeah, it's amazing. So congratulations. And I think it moved out of committee, right? Like it's on to the next step.
It did. It moved out of committee, and now it's going to move into the appropriations committee for consideration.
All right. Excellent.
It is. Well, my office is very excited about that one.
Yeah.
Because it's not that often you get an opportunity to make that much of a difference for the state.
Right, and it's a significant one. I mean, the whole water infrastructure, and it's a huge deal. Yeah. So when you're looking at these bills, right, so you have these people that are coming in, and then there's this idea of, can I move this through? It sounds like this one you thought you could move it through. Yes?
Well, it looks like we have a real opportunity.
Yeah. Do you ever take on bills that you think maybe won't move, but you believe in them, so you're gonna introduce them anyway? I mean,
there are bills like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I used the word message bill earlier, yeah. And that isn't really my intent. But
yeah.
I mean, if there's something like campaign finance reform is very important to me.
Yeah.
Because I see the way campaigns are financed, all the dark money, money coming in from foreign interests that we can't track.
Yeah.
And just the sheer volume of money that's coming in. We had the Citizens United decision back in 2014, which opened up corporate money and other money to come in.
Yeah.
And since then, we've seen more than a factor of 10 increase in campaign expenditures. So a factor of 10.
Yeah.
And before Citizens United, it was already pretty bad.
Right.
And basically, what happens with that money? You get this campaign money, the most effective thing you can do is bash your opponent. And so people just see all this bashing going on and think, well, politicians are a bunch of bums. And, I don't blame them for thinking that. So, but more than that, it poisons the system in a couple of ways. If you're one of the two political parties, there are sort of red line issues. Like if you're Democrats, it's choice. If you're Republicans, it's guns. If you stray from the party line on those issues, you're going to get hammered by outside money. You're going to get hammered by millions of dollars. You're going to see your face on TV. Your family is going to see that. Anyone that watches TV is going to see that, and it just makes it a lot more difficult to do the things that really are needed for our country. So
you have a bill that's addressing campaign finance reform. Can you give a quick?
Well. Yes,
summary?
this one it has a good chance, basically, of becoming law. it's just basically disclosure. I want to make sure that when people see advertisements on TV or in social media or in print, that they know who's paying for that.
Right.
That's a step in the right direction. Basically, disclosure is what this one's about.
Right.
There's other things that I'd like to see happen. There was a bill by Chris Rogers that would redefine corporations in a way that they can't donate. And I think that would be a big step in the right direction. Apparently that one got killed early on in the process this year. So we're trying to decide how to move forward on that one. But that's just an example. Bills like that one, Chris Rogers' bill, we knew that one wasn't, I'm a co-author on that one, we knew that one wasn't going to get very far. But we had to put it out there so people could see that we're serious about this and we want to move forward.
Right. I mean, as you said, there's messaging bills, there's building energy around an idea until it's able to move, right?
Right, yeah.
So you have to start somewhere.
That's right.
So, thank you for doing that. So we're going to shift a little bit to veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your son was in the Air Force, and your daughter works at the VA in Palo Alto, and she's a neuroscientist. Yes. I know you have another. You have another son, I think.
I do.
But the reason I'm bringing that up is not to talk about your family, but more that you have these two veterans bills, and I'm wondering if your relationships influence your understanding of veterans issues.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course, things that are, I mean, you grew up and you have experiences in life and things become important to you. So
yeah.
Veterans, my father was a veteran, my wife's father was a veteran, both in World War II. And so you see the importance, you see how being a veteran, being in combat can affect your life and affect the life of your family. So it's important to make sure that the veterans that are out here get help they need, that they don't face undue financial burdens, that there's health care if they need it. We want to keep them from having to become homeless. Those are all things that are very, very important. And then my son, who was a veteran, told me when I left Congress that one of the most important things I'd be most proud of is what I did for veterans when I was in the Congress, and he's right. We were able to build a veterans facility there on I-5 just south of Stockton, and it's a full-service healthcare. It's not a hospital, but it's basically short of a hospital, and that'll have a nursing home as well. So having to be able to provide that for veterans is one of the most things I'm most proud of for my work in Congress.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so incredible. And you have two bills right now. One's in Hungary. Explain them to me.
Well, one of them, I don't remember the numbers for those bills right now, but
yeah.
One of them is No Hunger Heroes Act, and
yeah.
We just want to make sure that there's the veterans that they're it's kind of hard to explain, but you have income as a veteran, and that income can be taxed.
Right.
And so if you include people that are homeless, we want to make sure that they have tax benefits so that they don't, if they're looking for a job, they don't have to use that income that is used to look for work for employment to be taxed against them.
I see.
And also, if they have children, we want them to have tax benefits,
right?
So they don't end up with their families on the street. The other bill has to do with parking placards that give people a right to park in the restricted areas for handicapped people.
Right.
And it turns out that if you're a veteran and you want to get a veteran's handicap placard, you have to go through extra hoops that people that are not veterans don't have to go through.
Oh.
And if you're a veteran, you want people to know that you served, and you're proud of your service, so you want your placard to say this is a handicapped person and a veteran at the same time.
Yeah.
And so to reduce those standards so that people can get those handicap placards with the same ease as someone that's not a veteran.
Okay, that sounds smart, and I think it already has moved, right?
Both of those have moved.
Yeah, unanimous support. So
Both of them had unanimous support.
I did my homework. I went through your bills. I'm like, I
So-
think these are the ones in movement.
Sometimes it's kind of hard to find the right words, but
Yeah.
we want to make sure veterans that don't have tax burdens that make them leave the state or that end up having to cut their food supply for themselves or their families.
Right, and it makes sense that people don't realize that, like with unemployment, for example, you're taxed by that. You know, you get taxed on the benefits that you're getting, and so I think that reducing that tax burden is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the other one is just making it possible for veterans to get their handicap stickers. This is like a no-brainer, right? I hope you get 100% support on that.
So far we have, and I don't expect any opposition on those.
Yeah, those sound like really good bills and should be a win on both sides of the aisle. Okay, path to office, right? Mm-hmm. You were a write-in candidate in, I think it was 2004, and can you explain how that came about? What's the story?
Yeah, the story was, as you noted, I'm a scientist and engineer. I was developing wind energy technology for 27 years. My son, who's a veteran, joined the service after 9/11. He gave me a call in 2004 and said, "Hey, Dad, I just got my absentee ballot in the mail. There's no one running against the incumbent. He's the most anti-environmental member of Congress, and he supports the war in Iraq, which was, in my mind, an immoral and unjust war." And so he challenged me, "Hey, Dad, I'm serving our country. What are you doing with yourself?" And so that's kind of a hard thing to ignore. And so I, after some coaxing, I took up the challenge and ran. But the ballots were already out, so I couldn't be a party's nominee. I had to be a write-in candidate in the primary election.
Oh.
So in the primary election, I was a write-in candidate. The result was you have to get 1% of the vote in the last general election, of the votes cast in the last general election, to become a nominee in the general election.
Okay.
If you're a write-in candidate. And so I had to get something like 1,600 people to write my name into a ballot. I had no political experience.
Yeah.
We did a lot, and there's a lot to that story, but we were a couple of votes. We were like 60 votes short. But looking at the data, it didn't add up to me. So I asked for a recount. You have to pay for a recount out of your own pocket.
Oh.
Which is significant because the registrar has to hire people and reserve space and all that. But if you overturn the election, you get your money back. So
okay.
It's kind of an interesting process.
So what did you do?
Well, we did. We had a recount in Contra Costa County. We picked up something like 16 out of 60 votes we needed. Mm-hmm. We went to San Joaquin County. We picked up another 40-some votes because they had just entirely left out a precinct.
Oh.
And then I went to Santa Clara County, and the registrar met me at the door and said, we missed these 7 votes, so it was really within just a few votes.
Okay.
I came to Alameda County, which is a political guerrilla, if you understand, Alameda County.
Yeah.
And so we fought and struggled vote by vote and picked up a vote, lost a vote, and at the end of the day I made it by 2 votes.
Okay. And you got your money back.
I got my money back.
Okay.
And then I was the nominee. I was the party's nominee in the general election in 2004. But, I had no backing from Washington or anybody, really. So I got crushed in that election. It's an R+7 district. It's a Republican, strongly Republican-leaning district.
Yeah.
And it didn't have much of a chance. I didn't know that at the time, but I figured that out later.
Well, I mean, we start things, right? We get excited, we try them, and then we learn.
You know this.
I know all about this. So it's the way that I did my monument project. I was like, I'll just try.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. And then you learn, and then you get back up and you try again. Speaking of which, 2 years later.
Yeah, 2 years later, but in 2006, then I knew what was involved. I knew how to raise money. I knew how to speak in public. And I went to Washington and met with Rahm Emanuel. He told me to get out of the race. I told him to shove it. He told me to get out of his office. And I won, and he loved me after that. He loved me because I told him, I stood up to him, and then I won, and he loves a winner.
Okay.
And so we were good friends after that. So
that's nice.
That was nice. But, the transition to Congress was euphoric. You're here in Washington and you're going to be involved. But, one of the things that was so daunting was this fundraising. You need to raise money every single day you're there. I mean, it's like, it's such an overwhelming thing.
Yeah.
And there's pressure. You gotta, if you're in a safe seat, you have to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to the party. If you're in district, you have to raise millions of dollars to protect yourself. And it was just overwhelming. But we were able to do some really great things on the Anti-Government Act, getting that veteran facility built.
Yeah.
Some smaller bills, the traumatic brain injury bill for veterans.
Yeah.
That was the signature injury of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then a lot of bills on tech, on broadband access, and those issues. So we did a lot of things, but in Washington, as a rank and file member, you have a limited amount of pull. The leadership in the party really has where the pull is, and the committee chairs.
Right.
So you can slip your bills into somebody's bigger bill if you're good, and maybe if you can hide something in the appropriations process, you can get some money through to do something once in a while.
Right.
But it's a struggle to get very much done.
Okay, so it sounds like some of the surprises were the fact that the fundraising has to continue to go on kind of all the time when you're there, and then there's a power structure in place that makes, on top of just getting regular power as a representative, you've got to work within the power structure that's pre-existing in Washington. Any other surprises? I mean, you got there. What would you say that one of my questions for you is, what would you, if you could go back in time and visit yourself on your first day, what would you say to yourself?
Well, I mean, I wanted to be on the Energy and Commerce Committee because energy was my bailiwick. Energy was my passion at that time. And so the natural committee was Energy and Commerce. But what I didn't realize at the time is that those big committees like the Energy and Commerce, the Appropriations Committee, Ways and Means, the more prestigious power committees, it takes years and years to get seniority and say in those committees. I was on Energy and Commerce for 16 years, and I didn't even have a subcommittee chairmanship or a ranking membership. And so it's frustrating. I think there's committees that, like the Transportation Committee or the Veterans Committee or Homeland Security, that are smaller and have a lot of turnover. You can move up. So, I was 55 when I got elected, 54, 55 when I got elected. If it takes 20 years to get a subcommittee chairmanship on a big committee, and most people like myself, you get kind of burned out after 15 or 20 years.
So would you go back and get on a different committee then?
I would probably stay on I started out as a freshman on the Transportation Committee.
Yeah.
And on the Veterans Committee, and I moved over to one of the other committees, the Energy and Commerce Committee, the first chance I got.
Oh.
And then I just stayed there at the bottom, the bottom layer there for many years.
Okay. And then it's harder to move things that you're interested in, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would go back and say, listen, stick with these other committees, you might be able to get more done.
Yeah, I think so. Although Energy and Commerce has a massive jurisdiction. It's healthcare, it's technology, it's energy policy. So you just have a massive jurisdiction. And in Washington, jurisdiction is everything.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I feel like the idea you're bringing forward is that it just takes a really long time to move things forward in DC and to build all those relationships, and that, people talk about term limits, right? I mean, and sometimes I think, well, the person's just barely getting their expertise in place and getting their relationships in place, and if you put term limits in too much of those in there, then they're never going to be able to get traction. I mean, what's your take on that? Because I feel like there must be some kind of balance that when we look at that, like, it just takes a long time. And I don't think the public really is aware of how long it takes to get stuff done.
Well, it does. It takes a long time. We have term limits in Sacramento, and that's a good case study. Initially, there was a term limits of 6 years in the Assembly and 8 years in the State Senate.
Yeah.
State Senate term is 4 years, so you have 2 terms in the State Senate, and you had 3 two-year terms in the Assembly.
Yeah.
And man, that's just not much time to get things done.
Right.
Unless you're really lucky. So, and not only getting things done, but you're right, developing the relationships and understanding the issues, understanding the process.
Yeah.